Welcome, dear listeners. Step into Ravenwood Manor's snowbound halls with me. I'm your guide through the frost and the fury, every clue sharp as icicles, every revelation colder than the grave. If you've ever suspected a winter wedding hides the deadliest vows, this is your tale. Subscribe now and never miss a chime of the manor bell. New chapters arrive weekly, wrapped in mystery. Yours in suspense, the chronicler of Crimson Snow. Snow seals the manor, a bride bleeds out in her locked suite, and a single snowflake melts on the carpet. Hercule Poirot tastes betrayal in the air and knows the killer walks among the wedding guests. Welcome to Hercule Poirot and the Blizzard Bride Murder. 5 chapters of frost, forgery, and fatal vows. Hit play. The thaw is coming. Chapter 1. The Veil in Crimson. The blizzard struck the Yorkshire dales with the fury of 1,000 winter furies, sweeping down from the Pennines in a white maelstrom that devoured the landscape. By dusk, the London train, already limping through the drifts, shuddered to a halt in the desolate hollow of Whitestone Vale. Hercule Poirot, ensconced in a first-class compartment, adjusted his muffler against the chill seeping through the glass. He had accepted Sir Reginald Ashford's invitation to Ravenwood Manor for the wedding of his niece, Beatrice, expecting a brief respite from London's fog. Instead, the storm had conspired to trap him. The guard, lanterns swinging, announced the impasse. "Tracks buried ahead, sir. Sleigh from the manor's waiting." Poirot descended, his patent boots crunching into ankle-deep snow, and joined a cluster of stranded passengers, a vivacious journalist, Miss Clara Beaumont, scribbling furiously, and a rotund vicar, Reverend Hargrove, muttering prayers into his beard. The sleigh, drawn by 2 sturdy cobs, plunged into the tempest. Bells jingled like desperate laughter. Ravenwood Manor rose from the white void, a brooding Jacobean fortress of weathered stone, its chimneys belching smoke, windows aglow like watchful eyes. Icicles daggered from the eaves, the great doors yawned open, exhaling warmth scented with pine and roast goose. The butler, Mr. Frostick, greeted them with funereal solemnity. "Monsieur Poirot, the family is in the great hall. The bride insists all guests attend the final fitting." The hall was a cathedral of Yuletide splendor. A Yule log thundered in the hearth, casting shadows across suits of armor. Holly wreaths bled berries onto oak panels. A Christmas tree soared to the rafters, its candles flickering like captive stars. The wedding party swirled in a vortex of silk and tension. Miss Beatrice Ashford, the bride, 24, was a vision in ivory velvet, her raven tresses crowned with a diamond tiara that scattered light like frost. Her fiancé, Mr. Lionel Fairfax, 30, cut a dashing figure in midnight blue, his shipping empire's wealth evident in the sapphire cravat pin. The cast of suspects assembled: Sir Reginald Ashford, Beatrice's uncle, 55, portly and pompous, his mutton-chop whiskers bristling; Lady Lavinia Fairfax, Lionel's aunt, 48, regal in amethyst silk, her smile ablade; Captain Elias Thorne, best man, 32, war-scarred, his limp pronounced, medals clinking; Miss Daphne Whitby, Beatrice's cousin, 22, golden and giddy, her laughter a champagne bubble; Madame Elise Duval, the seamstress, 40, Parisian accent thick, tape measure coiled like a serpent. At 8, dinner was served in the banqueting hall: venison in juniper sauce, potatoes dauphinoise, a wedding cake tiered like a snowdrift. Poirot savoured the claret, noting Beatrice's pallor beneath her rouge. "A winter bride," he remarked to her. "The snow, it blesses or curses." She laughed, but her eyes darted to Lionel. Uncle says the storm is tradition. Ashford brides always wed in white, snow or silk. Sir Reginald boomed a toast. To Beatrice and Lionel, may their fortune outlast this gale. At 9:27, Poirot marked the minute. The lights dimmed, then flared. Beatrice rose. My gown needs one final tuck. Madame Duval awaits upstairs. She kissed Lionel's cheek and ascended the grand staircase, veil trailing like a ghost. The party retired to the drawing room for brandy and charades. Poirot lingered by the fire, observing. Captain Thorne stared into the flames, knuckles white on his glass. Daphne's giggles masked a tremor. Lady Lavinia's gaze followed Lionel like a hawk. Madame Duval excused herself at 9:45, murmuring about pins. At 10:12, a scream shredded the night, raw, guttural, from the upper floors. Frostick burst in, face chalk white. The bridal suite, Miss Beatrice. Poirot led the charge, his compact frame slicing through the chaos. The corridor was a gallery of ancestral portraits, their eyes accusing. The bridal suite door was locked. Sir Reginald's shoulder splintered the jamb. Beatrice lay across the canopied bed, her ivory gown a canvas of crimson, a single stab wound blooming over her heart. The diamond tiara lay askew, one pearl earring missing, its post bent, bloodied, transformed into a lethal stiletto. The wedding veil was shredded in her clenched fists, threads matching a tear in the bed curtain. On the vanity, a note in scarlet ink. The bride's betrayal ends in snow. The window was latched, frost pristine on the sill. Yet a lone snowflake melted on the Persian rug, its damp trail snaking to the bed. The room's only door had been bolted from within. The key rested on the carpet, still warm. Sir Reginald bellowed, locked from inside, the window, impossible. Lionel crumpled beside her, sobs racking. My Beatrice, who could... Poirot knelt, gloved fingers tracing the wound. The stiletto had pierced with surgical precision, between the ribs, into the heart. He lifted the note. The paper was Manor stationery, the ink fresh, smelling faintly of attar of roses. Madame Duval's perfume. The storm had severed the telephone. The single bridge to the village was collapsed under snow. Poirot rose, eyes gleaming. Mesdames et messieurs, the little grey cells are engaged. A bride slain in a sealed chamber, with snow as her only witness. We begin with the melting flake and end with the hand that forged the ice. Outside, the blizzard roared, Ravenwood Manor entombed in white. The wedding veil lay in crimson ruin, and the enigma had claimed its first victim. Chapter 2. Footprints of the Phantom Bride. Dawn clawed through the storm's ragged remnants, a wan pewter light seeping over Ravenwood Manor's snow-choked battlements. The blizzard had eased to a malevolent whisper, but the manor remained a fortress of ice, its bridges buried, its gates sealed by drifts taller than a man. Hercule Poirot stood on the terrace, breath pluming in delicate curls, his galoshes carving perfect crescents in the virgin crust. Below the bridal suite window, the snow bore a cryptic signature. Footprints, narrow, heeled, bridal-sized, spiraling in 3 deliberate loops, then halting abruptly at a frozen fountain sculpted as a weeping cherub. Poirot knelt, tweezers poised. The prints were crisp, the heel marks deep where weight had pivoted. He scraped a sample into a vial, then traced the trail backward. At the fountain, the snow was undisturbed. No leap, no ladder. The loops mocked logic. A phantom bride's waltz. Inside, the conservatory had been commandeered as an interrogation chamber, its glass walls fogged with hothouse breath, orchids drooping like mourners. The wedding party assembled around a wrought-iron table, frost etching fern patterns on the panes. Beatrice's body lay in the chapel crypt, veiled in white linen. The bridal suite was sealed with twine and Poirot's own seal. Poirot took the head of the table, hands clasped. The footprints dance, yet vanish. Let us follow their rhythm. He began with Sir Reginald. You argued with Beatrice at 7, non? Over the dowry. Sir Reginald's whiskers bristled. She wanted to gift the mills to charity. Madness. I forbade it. Lady Lavinia sipped tea, lips thin. Beatrice was impulsive. Lionel deserved the fortune. Lionel Fairfax paced, eyes red-rimmed. She changed the will yesterday. I begged her to wait. Poirot produced the torn love letter from the tiara box, found at dawn. The paper was scented with jasmine, Daphne's perfume. My darling Elias, meet me at midnight. The marriage is a sham. Signed B. Captain Thorne flushed beneath his scar. A forgery. I loved her once, but she chose Lionel. Daphne Whitby laughed, brittle as glass. Beatrice stole everything. My inheritance, my fiancé. I was in the music room playing Chopin. Madame Duval measured tape, trembling in her fingers. I pinned the hem at 9. She was alive, excited. Poirot's gaze fell on a bloodied glove, kid leather, monogrammed B.A., dangling from the dumbwaiter hatch in the pantry, discovered by the scullery maid. He lifted it with a napkin. Left-handed, Beatrice was right-handed, planted. Lionel lunged. Someone framed her. Poirot led them to the pantry. The dumbwaiter shaft ascended to the bridal suite, its rope slick with fresh blood, still tacky. A scrap of bridal lace clung to a pulley, torn from the veil. The hidden path, Poirot said. The snowflake entered thus, but the footprints, why the dance? At midnight the previous night, Frostick the butler confessed under Poirot's gentle prodding. I heard whispers in the corridor, 2 voices, a woman's sob, then you'll never have him. And the second voice, Poirot pressed, lower, familiar, then a thud. Poirot ascended to the bridal suite. The window latch bore a scratch, new, made by a diamond. He examined the bed curtain. A thread of amethyst silk caught in the tear, matching Lady Lavinia's gown. In the conservatory, he confronted her. You visited Beatrice at 9:50, non? To persuade her about the will. Lady Lavinia's cup rattled. I left at 10. She was alive. Poirot produced a diamond brooch from his pocket, found in the fountain's basin. Yours. Dropped in flight. Daphne's eyes widened. I saw a shadow on the terrace at 10, veiled, like a bride. The footprints ended at the fountain's plinth. Poirot brushed snow from the cherub's wing, a faint smudge of blood, and a heel print inside the basin. Someone had stood within, then stepped out backward, sweeping the trail with the veil. The phantom bride, Poirot murmured. She danced to confuse, then hid in the fountain's shadow. He led them to the manor's east wing. A hidden door behind a tapestry opened to a narrow stair descending to the wine cellar. The passage was dusted with flour from the kitchen. Footprints again, healed, leading to a coal chute sealed by snow. The true exit, Poirot said. The killer entered via the dumbwaiter, stabbed, exited here, circled outside to mislead, then returned through the passage. Sir Reginald blanched. The will. She signed it at noon, disinheriting me. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The love letter, the glove, the footprints, all diversions, but the lace in the pulley speaks. As the party dispersed, Poirot lingered by the fountain. He lifted the cherub's frozen tear, a droplet of blood crystallized. The phantom bride had danced, but the little grey cells followed the rhythm. Tomorrow, the wedding toast would reveal the next step. Chapter 3. The poisoned wedding toast, The second morning at Ravenwood Manor arrived under a sky the colour of tarnished pewter, the blizzard's remnants drifting in lazy spirals that mocked the manor's isolation. Snow had piled against the lower windows, transforming the breakfast room into a glowing ice cave. Hercule Poirot entered with the precision of a conductor, his moustaches waxed to defiant points. A silver tray of evidence balanced on a sideboard. The bloodied glove, the torn love letter, the diamond brooch, the crystallized tear from the cherub's wing. The wedding party, now a funeral cortege in all but name, gathered around the mahogany table. A rehearsal breakfast had been laid. Kippers steaming, toast racks like golden cages, a centerpiece of white roses frozen in a silver bowl. The chapel ceremony, originally scheduled for noon, was now a grim charade to unmask a killer. Poirot stood at the table's head, hands clasped behind his back. We toast the bride who will never be, but first, we toast the truth. He lifted a crystal flask from the sideboard, silver-chased, engraved LF and BA forever, the groom's gift to Beatrice, found in the bridal suite's wardrobe. Champagne for the toast, yet the cork bears a pinprick. Lionel Fairfax's hand trembled as he reached for it. Poirot stayed him. Smell. A faint, bitter almond scent wafted. Dr. Marwood, the village physician snowbound with them, confirmed with a dropper. Cyanide, enough to fell the table. Gasps rippled. Lady Lavinia's teacup clattered. Beatrice drank nothing last night. Poirot produced a second flask from his waistcoat, identical, uncorked, found in the dumbwaiter shaft. This one is pure. The killer swapped them. Captain Thorne's scar twitched. I filled the gift flask myself at 7 in the cellar. Locked it in the suite. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Yet the key was with Beatrice, who had access. Madame Duval's tape measure snapped. I pinned the veil at 9:30. The flask was on the vanity, untouched. Poirot turned to the roses. Beneath the frozen blooms, a dowry document, forged. Beatrice's signature a clumsy mimicry, redirecting the mills to Lionel's aunt. Lady Lavinia, you drafted this at dawn yesterday. Beatrice refused to sign. Lady Lavinia's rings flashed. She was ruining the family. The chandelier above the table swayed, crystals chiming like alarm bells. A link snapped. The fixture plunged. Daphne Whitby screamed, diving aside. Shards exploded across the kippers, butter knives skittering. Poirot knelt, examining the chain. Filed with a diamond cutter, the tool found in Madame Duval's sewing basket. A warning, he said. The seamstress knows too much. Madame Duval paled. I found the cutter in my basket this morning, not mine. Poirot led them to the wine cellar, its racks groaning under dusty bottles. A secret ledger lay open on a barrel. Entries in Beatrice's hand, dated last week, transferring the fortune to a children's orphanage. A photograph was tucked inside. Beatrice and Captain Thorne, arms entwined, dated 1923. Lionel's face crumpled. She loved him once. I knew. Thorne's voice was gravel. She ended it. Chose duty. Poirot traced a blood-stained heel print on the cellar floor. Madame Duval's sighs, leading to the chapel, crypt. The crypt door was ajar. Frost on the steps melted by recent passage. Inside, a wedding chest lay open. The real marriage contract, naming Thorne as bigamist, married in France 1919 to a woman still living. The motive, Poirot said. Beatrice discovered it yesterday. Threatened exposure. Daphne stepped forward, golden curls trembling. I saw Madame Duval in the crypt at midnight, carrying a veil. Madame Duval's accent cracked. I was paid to alter the gown, to plant the flask. By her. She pointed at Lady Lavinia. The breakfast room's roses had thawed, petals bleeding red on the cloth. Poirot lifted the poison flask. The toast was to silence the groom, and the truth. The chandelier to silence the seamstress. The crypt connects all. He turned to the group. Tonight, a reconstruction in the ballroom. The mirrors will reflect the killer's hand. As they filed out, snow hissed against the panes. Poirot pocketed the contract. The poisoned toast had been raised, but the betrayal was still fermenting. The Manor's heart beat with a darker rhythm, and the next lie waited in the glass. Chapter 4. The ghost in the bridal mirror night-draped Ravenwood Manor in a shroud of indigo, the storm's dying breaths rattling the leaded panes like a spectre's knuckles. The ballroom, a cavern of guilt and grandeur, had been transformed into a theatre of truth. Mirrors lined the walls in ornate frames, reflecting candlelight into infinity. A single bridal veil, Beatrice's, blood-stained, draped a pedestal at the center. Hercule Poirot had orchestrated a reconstruction. The wedding party arranged in a tense semicircle, their faces fractured in the glass. Poirot stood beneath the chandelier, its crystals newly strung, his silhouette sharp as a blade. "The bride's ghost walks tonight," he announced, voice silken. "The mirrors will not lie." He placed the poison flask on the pedestal. "We reenact the final hour. Madame Duval, the veil. Captain Thorne, the flask. Lady Lavinia, the dowry." The players moved like marionettes. Madame Duval pinned the veil with trembling fingers. Thorne filled the flask, his limp pronounced. Lady Lavinia clutched the forged dowry, her amethyst gown pooling like spilled ink. Lionel Fairfax stood frozen, eyes on the veil. Sir Reginald puffed port. Daphne Whitby twisted a ring. Poirot dimmed the candles. Shadows leapt. 9:50. Beatrice alone. The killer enters. A mirror reflected a flicker, a silhouette in white, gliding behind the tapestry that concealed the passage to the crypt. Poirot's cane tapped. "Now!" He darted, the party in pursuit. The tapestry lifted. A draught carried the scent of myrrh and blood. The passage twisted like a vein, descending to the crypt, then ascending to the attic. Snow sifted through a cracked dormer, dusting the floor in pale constellations. A wedding chest lay open, Beatrice's trousseau, now holding the real marriage contract. Lionel wed in 1919 to a French nurse, invalid but binding. Thorne knelt, face ashen. She found it last month, promised silence, for love. The attic door slammed. Daphne stood there, a pearl-handled revolver glinting. "Beatrice stole my life, my cousin, my fortune, my Elias." Poirot stepped forward, cane raised. "You forged the love letter, paid Madame Duval to plant the flask." Madame Duval sobbed. £50 to alter the hem and the toast. Daphne fired. The bullet shattered a mirror, shards raining like frozen tears. Poirot tripped a garter belt, stretched earlier across the beam. It snapped. A net of veil silk ensnared Daphne's wrist. The gun clattered. Frostick tackled her, pinning her arms. "The key," Poirot said, producing an ice duplicate from the chest, melted at the edges, molded in the fountain's basin at 9:45, returned to the carpet as it thawed. Lionel's voice broke. "You killed her for me," Daphne spat. "For us. The contract was void. Beatrice knew." Poirot lifted the veil. The ghost was no spirit. The reconstruction drew you out, mademoiselle, when you moved behind the tapestry. Back in the ballroom, the mirrors reflected the truth. Daphne's defiance crumbling, Madame Duval's guilt, the other's shock. Poirot placed the ice key on the pedestal. "Tomorrow, at dawn, the thaw unmasks the final hand." The chandelier swayed, crystals chiming like a dirge. Poirot extinguished a candle, its smoke curling like a departing soul. The ghost had been cornered, but the bridal betrayal's heart still pulsed, waiting for the snow to melt. Chapter 5. The thaw of the betrothed. Sunrise bled across the Yorkshire dales in ribbons of rose and gold, the blizzard's fury spent, leaving Ravenwood Manor draped in a crystalline hush. Icicles wept from the eaves, snow sliding from the roof in soft avalanches that revealed the manor's stone bones. Hercule Poirot stood in the bridal suite, the scene of Beatrice's murder now bathed in tender light. The bloodstain on the gown faded to rust. The wedding party, shattered, hollow-eyed, gathered one last time, the air thick with the scent of thawing pine and final reckoning. Poirot held the ice key aloft, its edges softened to water in his palm. The thaw dissolves illusions, he began, voice clear as the chapel bell tolling outside. The bride's betrayal was not of the heart, but of blood. He arrayed the evidence on the vanity, the ice key, the bloodied glove, the forged dowry, the real contract, the pearl stiletto, the revolver, the garternet. Lionel Fairfax clutched the bedpost, his midnight blue suit rumpled. Lady Lavinia stood rigid, amethyst gown discarded for mourning black. Captain Thorne leaned on his cane, medals dull. Daphne Whitby sat cuffed, golden curls limp. Madame Duval wrung her tape measure. Sir Reginald puffed, port forgotten. Sir Reginald, Poirot said, you entered at 9:45 via the dumbwaiter. The snowflake fell from your boots as you climbed. You argued. Beatrice showed you the orphanage ledger, exposing your embezzlement of the mills. Sir Reginald's whiskers drooped. She discovered the accounts, threatened the board. Poirot produced the ledger from the crypt chest. You forged the dowry to redirect the fortune to your debts. Beatrice refused. He turned to the footprints. You circled outside in Daphne's boots, stolen from the boot room. The fountain was your stage. You stood within, swept backward with the veil. Daphne's voice cracked. He paid me to forge the love letter, to plant the glove. Poirot lifted the poison flask. You laced the champagne for Lionel to silence him before he learned the truth. The chandelier filed by you to warn Madame Duval. Madame Duval nodded. He threatened my shop. I swapped the flasks. Thorne stepped forward. I saw him in the cellar at 9, carrying the veil. Poirot opened the real contract. Beatrice planned to expose you at the wedding. You stabbed her at 9:52, molded the key in ice at the fountain earlier, locked the door, exited via the passage. Sir Reginald sank to a chair, face crumpling. The mills, bankrupt. She'd have ruined me. Lionel released the bedpost. Uncle, you killed her for money? He turned to the window. The wedding was real. I loved her. Poirot's gaze was steel. The love letter, the glove, the footprints, all your diversions. The reconstruction drew Daphne out, but the ice key betrayed you. The manor's doors creaked open. Constables trudged through the thaw, summoned by a desperate wireless from the village. Sir Reginald was cuffed, his portly frame shrinking. Daphne, Madame Duval, and Thorne were led away for complicity. The bridal suite window gleamed, frost fully melted, revealing the dale's vast freedom. Poirot lifted the veil, its crimson stain now brown. The bride's betrayal ends in snow. You wrote it to frame love, but the truth thaws. Outside, a sleigh waited, bells silent. Lionel embraced Poirot. The orphanage will honor her name. Poirot boarded, muff warm. Ravenwood Manor receded, its windows clear. The storm's betrayal melted with the snow. The moor stretched wide, the manor restored to peace. The blizzard bride's murder avenged in crystalline justice.